So welcome to One Heart, One Mind Center for Spiritual Living. And I would like to invite, welcome, thank, greet our music for today, Jesse Powers. Thank you for being here, Jesse. I always love it.
I'm happy to be here. I always love being invited. I haven't played this one since like the beginning of this year, so I thought we'd dip back into the pool of loving being alive. This is the one where I meow. Yeah, you all know. I woke up this morning joyful as can be. That's how I spend my day and that's how I'll sleep. I woke up this morning joyful as can be. That's how I spend my day and that's how I'll sleep. I woke up this morning joyful as can be. That's how I spend my day and that's how I'll sleep. I woke up this morning joyful as can be. That's how I spend my day and that's how I sleep. 'Cause I love being alive. It's the greatest thing about my life. I love being alive. It's the greatest thing about my life. I woke up this morning grateful as can be. That's how I spend my day and that's how I'll sleep. I woke up this morning grateful as can be. That's how I spend my day and that's how I'll sleep. 'Cause I love being alive. It's the greatest thing about my life. I love being alive. It's the greatest thing about my life. Okay, I have a challenge for the chat. In the chat, I want you to drop two things. One thing you're grateful for, and one thing that made you laugh really hard recently. And made you feel like a little kid. You were laughing so hard. I woke up this morning playful as can be. That's how I spend my day and that's how I'll sleep. I woke up this morning playful as can be. That's how I spend my day and that's how I'll sleep. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. Woo! I woke up this morning playful as can be. That's how I spend my day and that's how I'll sleep. 'Cause I love being alive. Meow, 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 meow. I love being alive. That was a walrus. I love being alive. It's the greatest thing about my life. I love being alive. It's the greatest thing about my life. Oh, thanks for dropping some stuff in the chat. Look at that.
What have we got in the chat? Oh, Abigail's grateful for her granddaughters. And Marcia's grateful for her friends. I said that I'm grateful for my spiritual family, all of you. And then what I laughed about was, we recently had a family reunion and we told funny old stories that only we would know are funny. And we laughed so hard.
Love that.
So hard.
I
Yeah.
love a good deep belly laugh. My sister and I just visited with each other beginning of October and we had so many of them. Oh, so good.
They're great. And they get a little bit embellished as the years go on, but that makes them even better. Oh, that was fun. We had such a great time. That was week before last? It was spectacular. Anyway, I would like to invite our practitioner of the day, Ralane Clarke, yay, to kick us off with some words and a prayer or whatever she wants to do. Good morning. Ralane.
Good morning. I like the synchronicity of things with Jesse's song, Meow. This, of course, I'm going to be giving a story about a cat. So So every morning when we wake up, Jim and I have a cup of coffee, sitting together with our cat Mora, right between us and leaning up against us. I asked Jim if he would like to pray, and he says yes. And Mora is already purring, and her purrs feel like our prayer has already started. Mora had a difficult beginning in her life. She was born into a hoarding situation in a home with 80 other animals. Miraculously, the Humane Society came in and rescued all the animals, including Mora, and all were put up for adoption. Well, Mora waited for a home for 1 year when we came along, and myself, Jim, and our young son looking for a cat to adopt. Okay, and there were 4 rooms of adoptable kittens and cats, so it felt really overwhelming for us to decide. One pretty all-black cat sat on my purse that was laying on the floor by my side. She smiled at me, and I returned the smile. Our son was sitting on a little chair, looking at all the cats, and this same black cat jumped up on his lap. And he pointed at the cat, and I saw him petting the cat. But we didn't decide then. We decided to go home and think about it. And after a few days home, I kept thinking about Mora, and I realized that Mora had chosen us. So I called the Humane Society and let them know that we would like to adopt Mora. From the day we brought her home, Mora has been the most grateful cat that we've ever had. Her atmosphere is an easy breezy one with the deepest purrs that resonate all through her body and through our bodies with vibrations of warmth and love. What I have learned from Mora is that expressing gratitude is everything in life, no matter what we've experienced. Mora understands this, and she expresses gratitude with gentleness, intelligence, and purposefulness. She accepts all cats and dogs that we have lived with ease. If you're a Star Trek fan, there was a show about tribbles, and tribbles were these, Rob's shaking his head. Tribbles were these furry little things that made cooing sounds when you pet them. And everyone had a feeling of well-being just by being around them. Well, we call Mora our tribble, as both Jim and I continually feel this sense of well-being just by being in Mora's atmosphere. Being in her presence, it is full to the brim with loving gratitude. She is a role model and a mentor for me to have this much gratitude in my atmosphere. Yet I will never be able to purr like she does, as cats are those mysterious creatures that purrs, and no one fully understands a cat's purr. Mora is a divine being, and her purrs are always prayers of love and gratitude. And let's pray, since we're already praying. I'll let Mora lead the way. So in this feeling of love and gratitude and happiness and joy and all compassion and just all the joyous being of being alive, we just feel the presence of God. We feel the vibration, the resonance. We feel all the goodness in, of, and through and all around us. And I'm so grateful to be here in this very moment with all of you, with the One Heart, One Mind community. And I know that today's service we are joined in one in a way that just lifts us up into higher and higher levels of a spiritual resonance that just feels so, so wonderful. And so I'm so grateful, and I thank God for Reverend Michelle's talk today and every one of you and all those that are not here because they're part of our circle of oneness and beyond, that today is perfect in every way. We release this prayer into divine law and just simply say, and so it is. And I think we have an October affirmation. As autumn reveals beauty and change, I welcome transformation. Sorry, this thing is in the way. There we go. I welcome transformation as a natural rhythm of my soul. With gratitude, I harvest wisdom, love, and peace, knowing life is ever renewing. And I'm always supported by the infinite, and so it is.
Thank you, Ralane.
Welcome.
I never knew that about your cat, Mora.
What's that?
I never knew that about your cat. I knew you had a cat named Moira, or is it Mora or Moira? Moira.
Mora.
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 But I never knew that she started off life like that. She did choose you, didn't she?
Yes.
It was a perfect match, right?
Hmm.
So, Jesse, do you have some more music for us?
You know I do.
I know you do.
You know I do. Let's call in the light together. Calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of love, calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of love. I am love, I am peace in my heart, I am free, I am spirit, I am soul, all together we are whole. Now repeat after me. I am love, I am love, I am peace, I am peace in my heart, I am free, I am spirit, I am soul, all together we are whole. Calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of love, calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light of love.
Oh, that was just beautiful. Thank you for that. That was beautiful. I love the the call and response part. That was great. So good morning, One Heart, One Mind Center for Spiritual Living. You know, as I was starting to put together today's talk, actually quite a few days ago, I started thinking about how incredibly grateful I am for this community. You know, I received so much from us as a group, and I know that I'm not alone in that, because I've heard all of you say the same thing. So I just want to honor the fact that our community is truly this place of connection and growth and belonging. And I continue to hold, and I invite you to hold this with me, that we expand, that we touch more lives, more hearts, that we serve more people, that anyone who is looking for an open-minded, inclusive, and supportive community, a space to kind of deepen in their divine nature, that we are connected with them. So we continue to set that intention. It's my current vision that we expand and reach more people and become a point and a place for more people to be that love and light. So anyway, just wanted to, I think we need to remind ourselves of our intentions occasionally, and that is certainly mine. And I know that it has been and continues to be the intention of our entire community. So today I would like to explore, and I would like for you to explore with me, one of the deep spiritual truths that is foundational to the science of mind teaching, which is there is only one life. There's only one power. There's only one presence, one infinite intelligence that is expressing through all of creation, including us, of course. And this is the spiritual principle of oneness. And this morning's message is entitled The Universal and the Individual, which is probably most of you recognize. I pulled right out of Ernest Holmes' book, Living the Science of Mind. It's on page 151 if you want to read it. In his essay, Holmes dispels the idea that we're separate from God, from the universal, and opens us to embody our oneness with Source as these unique individual expressions, the individual. And I'll use a well-worn metaphor here because it's a great illustration. I have a couple of them today. But the universal is this big, boundless mind of Source, like the ocean. And it doesn't stand apart from its creation. Creation is every wave that rises from it, that rises from the ocean, and that falls back into the infinite love or the experience of the entire ocean. Bringing with it, the wave brings with it, when it comes back, all of its experiences, all of the things that expanded it, that grew it, and it contributes back into the whole. But it's never cut off from the larger whole of the ocean. And each wave expresses the nature of the ocean, just as we express the nature of the divine presence that we're one with. Because not only do we live within the one life, the wholeness of the ocean, but as individual expressions of it, we also contribute to it. We have a reciprocal relationship with our Source. And for us as human beings, this creates this kind of wonderful balance between living only from our ego self, as if we're separate from Source, or spending all of our time in spiritual practice and contemplation, rather than bringing this divine presence alive in our daily lives in the world of form. It helps us, the reciprocal nature helps us find that balance between the two. We're divine beings having a human experience, and we are meant to inform and enrich our humanity through the spiritual, the divine presence that we already are. So, to be aware of the God stuff splashing all over the world is where we want to be. To bring heaven to earth, really, to find that balance of divinely human lives. God gives itself as life, love, intelligence, and creative power. And we, in turn, give back to God every time we allow that life to express consciously and beautifully through us. This is the meaning of the universal and the individual. We actually could say the universal as the individual. That might be a little bit more right on. Sometimes talking about how we individualize the universal it can seem a little bit abstract. And I really believe that all spiritual principles have to be experienced personally, so that they can benefit and empower our human lives. You know, otherwise we're just being these human filing cabinets, you know, collecting information and not putting it into practice in our lives. And I personally find it very empowering to know that the very same power that continually creates stars and galaxies and universes is moving through us, moving through all of us, and that we can consciously personalize and direct it. It's very comforting and reassuring to know that we're one with the flow of universal good, and that it's always available to us to benefit our lives, you know, which enriches the whole of creation, just like the wave going back into the ocean, bringing with it all of the things that it experienced while it was being a wave. We too bring back everything that we experience and contribute to the whole. You know, and that seems incredibly relevant to our personal lives, to know that the one benevolent power, which is the only power, that resonance moves through us, and we can direct it and use it in our daily lives. You know, I think that's just very personal. So in this way, we bring the spiritual principle of oneness into everything we do in our dailiness. And then, of course, we move towards a greater expression of good, of love, even when we can't see it in the moment, which is often when we see through the confusion of life rather than from the larger unfolding view, you know, to know that the presence is always there, even when it isn't obvious to us. The very first line of Holmes' essay states, "We individualize the universal and universalize the individual." That's a mouthful. And this is really the essence of the science of mind teaching, you know, and how relatable it is to our lives. Over and over again, we experience the universal moving into our individual lives when we let it. This reminds us that the infinite nature and limitless potential of the universal individualize itself as each one of us. And we also contribute back to the universal. And that what we feel and experiences contributes to the growth and to the expansion of the whole of humanity. And you know, I just find this deeply profound and very empowering. I have a quote from Holmes. Let's see. And in that same essay that I was talking about, Holmes wrote this: "There is no such thing as an individual anything in the universe. We, as individuals, don't have an individual gravitational force that holds us in place. We don't possess an individual law of mathematics or a principle of harmony. Rather, we are immersed in all these things, and they individualize through us in accord with the use we make of it." I love that. I love that quote. Holmes reminds us that we have within us universal principles that already exist. The same ones that run the larger universe are right where we are. They operate everywhere through us. We don't create them, but we use them. Just like a musician, just like Jessie uses her guitar, the musicians use the universal law of harmony to create a song, or an inventor uses the laws of physics to build something. We use the laws that are already present within us, the universal principles, the spiritual truths, whatever we want to call them. They already exist and they operate everywhere. So when Holmes says these principles individualize through us, it means that the one universal presence expresses itself uniquely through each of us, depending on how we think and feel and act. We're the instruments through which the universal plays. And what comes out depends on how we tune ourselves and what we choose to play, just like whatever a musician decides to play through their particular instrument. Another metaphor that kind of helps us understand the concept is to think of the universe, or the principle of life, whatever you want to call it, as the sun. It shines everywhere equally, constantly, and each of us is like a window The sun doesn't change from one window to another, but the way the light shines through depends on the window itself, the size, the shape, the clarity, the color. If the glass is clear and open, more light shines through. If it's dusty or covered, then less light gets in. But the light itself, the sun, the principle of life, never stops shining. And we don't have our own light source. We're expressions of the one light, each in our own unique way. The principle of life expresses itself through us, filtered, as we all know, through our thoughts and our feelings and what we hold in our subconscious. We create using the same law as our creator, filtered through who we believe ourselves to be and what we believe about our place in the world, through a belief that we're either victims or victors, that life either happens to us or we happen to life, through our fears or through our faith, from our belief in oneness or our belief in separation. And whether we're aware of it or not, we do have creative agency over our lives. These are choices, either by default or by conscious intention. And we don't have a private version, as Holmes said in his quote, of truth, of love, or harmony, but we get to personalize and craft these qualities of the divine that are already within us into something that's uniquely our own. We get to individualize them through us. And the universal doesn't divide itself to become us. We're not just a piece of the universal. It expresses itself in its wholeness through us, which means we're not just a piece of God. We are the wholeness of God showing up wherever we are. And we can do that in our own unique way. The universe is this living, evolving presence, and it's never static. It's a dynamic expression, constantly moving through us and becoming more of itself through what we bring to the party, through what we allow to be individualized through us. I like to say that spirit is knowing itself more fully through us and as us. It just is. And I know that there's always this wave of something wanting to create through me. I like to talk about living on that green growing edge. And our every thought and feeling and prayer and act of love and moment of realization, it contributes to the collective consciousness of the wholeness of life. Ernest Holmes would say that we are points of consciousness within the one mind, meaning that the infinite doesn't just pour through us. It knows itself as us. And when we awaken our point of awareness to the experience of all the qualities of God that we talk about all the time, of love, of peace, of creativity or wisdom, we expand the field of those very qualities into the universal. In other words, when we grow in love, love itself grows. And not because the infinite is missing something, but because it is the infinite in expansion. It's forever expanding, always unfolding as new possibility, through which it expresses love. And I believe this is the way that we will change the world. Together, we can raise those vibrations of love, of peace, of connection, of wholeness, of abundance for all, of really a world that works for everybody. Because remember, just as the universal expresses through us, we contribute back to the universal. Neville Goddard, we've been reading the handbook from Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard said that creation is already finished. I love that line. We talked about that at our Tuesday night class. Creation's already finished, meaning that everything exists in potential within divine mind. And we already have everything we need to lift the collective consciousness of humanity, to hold a consciousness of that desires to express love and peace and good into form, into our world of time and space. And we get to do that in our own unique way, which makes it ever so much more interesting Whatever lifts us personally lifts the whole. Every realization of love, every act of kindness, every moment of clarity that we have adds the collective field of life. We don't just receive from the universe, we help shape its unfoldment. Our thoughts, our prayers, our actions, they move into the collective awareness of all of humanity and into the divine mind. And through our awareness and our choices, the infinite discovers new ways to know itself, new ways to love, to heal, to shine through all of life. And we can choose to contribute this to the living collective consciousness of expanding humanity. Again, I believe this is how we end up changing the world. In our Tuesday discussion group, which I was just talking about this past week, we were talking about how in today's world, we see so many expressions of power that seem out of harmony with divine love and divine freedom, out of sync with the spiritual principles of universal law. We see systems and leaders who appear disconnected from the awareness that life is sacred and interconnected. And this could, and I'm probably not alone in this, this sometimes brings up feeling of grief and anger and fear and even sometimes helplessness, like what can I contribute? And in our discussion group, we talked about how this is where the real practicality of science of mind comes in. Science of mind doesn't ask us to turn away from the difficult or challenging things we see, or to descend into judgment or anger or despair, but to go within to what is already available to us in consciousness, the consciousness of our source. Well, all things begin there. Consciousness precedes form. And to use the spiritual practices that we teach to move into a consciousness of spiritual peace and love and wholeness and compassion. Our spiritual practices reconnect us to the realization of and the felt experience of that behind every appearance of separation or misuse of power, the one life is still present, always seeking to awaken to universal truth. It's long been my belief that whatever is in the way of that higher expression of life will always make itself known. And that's what I think we're seeing right now. And that can be forgiven and healed and transformed. We talked a lot in the last few weeks about how love transforms fear. So that love can dissolve fear, I believe is the word we used. And that's what I think we're experiencing all around us when we see such confusion. Confusion, to me, is not being able to see the unfolding pattern in its wholeness yet. And I think that's what's happening, where we're experiencing, I don't know about you, but I have definitely given up watching the news. I'll hear if something important happens, but it's just, it makes my head spin. It's a temptation to go into what's happening in the world as truth, rather than to stay grounded in universal truth. We're the ones who get to affirm that divine intelligence is present everywhere when it doesn't seem to be very obvious. To call us into a place of prayer and meditation, to affirm the truth, the one that we're not seeing in the world around us, but we know is there. We're realigning the world with the higher vibration and of love and wholeness when we go there and aren't tempted to believe what we see around us. And then from that centered awareness, then we can act. When we create that balance between the universal and the individual, we can rely on the reciprocal nature of life, and we can move into right action in the world. action that uplifts rather than condemns, and um, loves rather than grounds us in fear. One that brings out the wholeness and the divine intelligence that we know is already within us. Because when we act from love rather than fear, our energy is constructive, not divisive. When we become channels through which spirit can work, then we bring the light. Darkness doesn't dispel darkness, light does. And we bring the light. And when many awakened hearts feel their own light together, then that light amplifies and the world shifts. I believe this is what Ernest Holmes was speaking to when he advised us to be for something and against nothing. Pushing back with the same energy as the thing we don't want just gives us more of the same. Only love dispels fear, and then it clears the way for change to happen. And I've used this technique personally in my own life several times, in my dailiness, in just little small things. And I've really found it to be quite effective in transforming challenging situations, even when I apply it to really kind of small daily things. It's the same principle that has the power to change the world. And I've used it in my classroom, in my home, in social situations, in personal relationships, and even when what's going on in the world begins to really get me down. So if I find myself in that really, in that place of really feeling annoyed or worried, or when my mind just wants to continue spinning in some negative pattern, what I'm talking about. When I find myself, dropping deeper into judgment and complaint and victimhood, I just do this really simple little practice, which brings me back into love. I just stop. I take a breath. And I focus on the qualities that I'm grateful for in the world, or in another person, or in a situation, or some circumstance, or whatever the challenge is that at that very moment. And when I do that, I naturally become more relaxed, more patient, more understanding. I listen rather than argue or resist. And the energy begins to soften. I can begin to feel peace. And peace then just opens up a space for a new perspective to be born, a new way of being in the world, or with a situation or a person or a circumstance, as I said, just by looking for the things that I'm for and not spinning in what I'm against. And the temptation to talk about what you don't like is so strong that you really have to practice to get yourself to come back into that place. Well, what am I for here? What would I like to see here? What is possible here? I think of the things in the world that I really want to see, or I know are already alive in my heart, but I'm not feeling at the moment. And there's lots of places to put my attention to feel good. There are lots of people doing really good things in the world. People who are helping each other, building bridges between groups that seem to oppose each other, feeding the hungry, building houses for the homeless. There's those big things. Bringing a presence of love into just some small situation where someone is feeling down. I could go on and on. We all know there's a lot of good things that are happening in the world around us. And when it comes to my personal relationships, I can focus, we all can focus on the things we do appreciate, on the things that we see in somebody else that we go, wow, that is a really nice quality. I know sometimes in the classroom, if I have a particularly challenging focus on or student, I'll focus on things like, wow, I just love the way they pushed in their chair, or she has such a great imagination. And without fail, the energy begins to soften and things begin to change just through that simple softening of resistance. The space will open up and it will fill with peace and with compassion. if I get an unexpected bill in the mail or something breaks down and I'm thinking, oh, that's going to cost a lot to fix, I focus on knowing that the solution already exists in the mind of God. And to the best of my ability, I will say, I align myself with the energy of the solution. Neville Goddard said that we can saturate the mind with the wish fulfilled. So feel as if the thing has happened. There's all kinds of things, large and small, that I can focus on to shift my energy rather than focusing on what I believe is missing or wrong or needs to be fixed. Nothing ever needs to be fixed. We always have to create something new. We can't change the past. We can change our perception of the past, but not the past. So I believe it's really important to find ways to not only understand, but to really embody this basic spiritual principles of science of mind, all the beautiful principles that we teach, and to practice, do the practices that bring them forward into our lives. And that takes, again, as Goddard says, it takes imagination, it takes belief, and it takes persistence. I could do a whole talk just on those. We understand that the universal God, Spirit, the all that is, expresses through us. We realize that every thought, every feeling, and action matters. That we're just not passive observers of our life. We're active participants in the unfolding of the divine through us in our unique way. And that our conscious intentions and our personal choices help shape both our personal experiences and the greater whole, the experiences of all of creation, of all of humanity. And that, just aligning with the spiritual truths of the universe, aligns us with this greater purpose and creativity. And again, together, this is how we shift our world. This is how we create a world that works for everyone, in which we can all experience the good of this constant flow of the universal into our individual lives. Our spiritual journey is not just a path of becoming something we're not, of trying to fill something that's missing. It's an awakening to what has always been true. The universal is not out there somewhere, it's right here. Individualizing itself in each of us. And the more we embody that truth, the less we have to struggle to get somewhere. Running around like we're always late for class or for work or something. We can just calm down and be present with what is already within us. And then life becomes more of a joyful recognition of what already is, instead of this, oh, I've got to get somewhere. The universal seeks to know itself through us. And our task, our job, our part is simply to say, yes, I want that. To let the universal express through us in our unique and beautiful pattern of our own individuality. We're not traveling towards the divine. We're revealing it. It is us. We are it. The universal is the individual, and the individual is the universal. So let's just take a breath and deepen into that through some prayer. I know that all that is God. God, Spirit, the all that is, the ever-flowing presence of good in and through and as its creation, including us. We are one with this divine presence. We can be nothing else. And so from this place, I speak my word. I am empowered to speak my word using the same creative power and presence of God. I speak my word for all lives within this universal. I speak my word for our beautiful, sacred, spiritual community and for everyone that we touch. I speak my word for everyone that we know in a new and fresh way the divine light that lives within us, And then it moves out into our daily lives in ways that are good and abundant and healthy and purposeful and fulfilling and absolutely joyous. That each and every one of us experiences a good that we've never known before and that we've never even imagined could be so. We move into that unknown place of divine good that says yes to the open channel we create for its flow. So for this, I just say thank you. I know that all is well, that everything is perfect in its expression, even when we can't see it at the moment. So I just relax in the sense of gratitude and thanksgiving. I hold this in my heart. I release it into law, knowing law always says yes. And together we signify our agreement by saying, and so it is. All right. Whew. So this is the part where I always tend to be a little bit like, what's next? But I'm not sure who is doing the sacred giving. Is it you, Lisa? I might be able to unmute you. Let me try. I did it. There you go. Oops. And then you redid it. All right. There we go.
Yeah,
There, you're unmuted. There you go.
I'm sorry. It's hard to find on my screen. At any rate, I want to thank you so much for reminding me of that principle to really look at not what you're against, but what you're for. And what instantly came to my mind, and it's Ralene's fault, is cats. I totally approve and love cats, any cat, anywhere, any place. And I realized that Ralane's cat is just a perfect reminder of circulation. It's like she and her family reached out and gave totally to Mora, and Mora has totally given back. And I think it's just a wonderful way to look at circulation in this moment where we need to look at circulation in terms of giving whatever financial gift we would like to give to One Heart, One Mind today. And so I think most of you do Venmo, I believe.
Yeah,
So
most of
there's Venmo, and then I think Reverend Michelle will put up her address. I probably should have it written down, but I don't.
That's all right. I'll put it up. And yes, I think pretty much all of us, am I muted? No. Know the ways to give, but I'll share it anyway. And I do want to say that there are a couple of people who gave, I don't want to say excessively, generously. There's the word, very generously, that I want to honor. You know who you are. And here are the ways to give.
Okay, and there is Reverend Michelle's address, which is 1338 Idaho Avenue, Escondido, California, 92027. And then for Venmo, that you do Venmo at Ohome. You get well, I usually get Michelle, and then it says Ohome Center, and that's what I give to.
Yeah, and then there's a picture of me, not my entire body, because that's on a different Venmo, but just my face. There's a picture.
Right.
So most people know that by now, but it's always good to remind.
Yes.
And let's see, then I have the
And
same
you have the
giving here, kind of backing and forthing. Here we go.
Here we go. I give with a grateful heart, knowing that spirit is the source and substance of all supply. I joyfully participate in the circulation of abundance. My offering blesses the world and returns to me multiplied. I am grateful and I am prosperous, and so it is. And the other thing that I was struck by in terms of your talk today and that article by Ernest was again that concept of the circle. It is that sense of that the universal comes into us and then we share the universal out. And so I was thinking of that in relation to how we talk about spirals, also in relation to sort of the issue of trying to raise your consciousness.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And that was one of the things that stuck out for me when I was putting the talk together, and not something that we talk a great deal about, is yes, we're these expressions of the all that is, of the universal, but we're also contributing to it, which empowers us to continue to raise the vibe on the planet, you know, and I don't know about you, but probably this is true for most of you. I've been spinning a bit and seeing what's happening, and I just have to keep pulling back, seeing, okay, in the middle of this confusion, there is a larger pattern emerging, because I know God always moves towards a greater expression of love. So if I'm seeing something that looks confusing and crazy, then what it's doing is highlighting itself so that I can forgive whatever part of me is feeling that, heal whatever is old in me that still might feeling that. And then also that piece that you talked about, Lisa, about just staying in what you're for. Don't push back with the same energy that you don't want to see anymore, because that's so tempting. No, lead us not into temptation, Jesus told us in the prayer. Maybe it was him, we don't know. But anyway, so I didn't mean to get off on a tangent, sorry, but that was really kind of what I was focused on, is that, yeah, it's not just one way. It's a circle, it's the circulation. Okay. So our announcements for this week are Monday night prayer group, which we always do. Tuesday night, we're finishing up, I think, the book. And I will miss it because we've had such great conversations around it. And I don't think we picked a book yet, so it'll probably take a week or two break until we talked about creative minded success, but I don't know, do we really want to wade through Ernest Holmes? Right. We're still kind of on the edge of what we're going to do, but we'll figure it out. Maybe we'll have a discussion of that on Tuesday evening. And then Ralane is doing a new group.
Yeah.
Is your morning prayer group still on the same day?
No, there's no morning prayer group because there's 5 weeks in October.
Oh, that's right.
So it's next week. But the Joyous Expectancy of Being Me is going to be at 6 o'clock on Wednesday. And you're all very welcome. And, you know, just as things are always so connected, Reverend Michelle's talk today is exactly why I decided to create this group. Because I felt that we all could use a monthly support group on how to continue to realize the importance of us shining our lights, expressing our unique divinity, and being ourselves, and how that contributes to our life and others. So I hope to see you there.
Thank you. Thank you. And I guess that's it. We're not going back to until the first Sunday in December. So we've got a whole month before we travel back up down there. I can't think of anything else, but I do want to say that, you know, your contributions really make a difference, really make a difference. So I'm encouraging you to give if you can, because it really matters, and it does keep us it keeps us going. So, and for those of you that give generously and regularly, which is most of you, you know, I just want to say how much I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to get to speak with you every week and to just create this wonderful, incredible center that really is so important to me, and I think to many of us. So, all right, and then let's see, Lisa, you want to do the benediction first, and then we'll let Jessie sing us out?
Sure.
Pray us out. She'll sing us out.
Okay. Okay, so why don't we recenter and take a nice deep breath, breathing in that life that unites us all. And I just want to express my gratitude for the blessing of this entire service, beginning with the beautiful silliness of Jessie's song to remind us that laughter is a part of holiness as well as those spaces of peace and quiet. And I also want to thank Ralane for the blessing of her cat story and her prayer. And then, of course, Reverend Michelle always teaches us or brings us together into that space of reminding us of who we are, where we come from, and how we can more broadly express ourselves, the divine and personal and individualized parts of ourselves with more joy and love and grace and peace. And so I released this prayer into the law by saying thank you. Thank you to each and every person in the service. Thank you to each and every person who participated. And to finally close with some words that I remember from Hafiz, which is, you are the flute through which the Christ plays. And so we release together into the law by saying, and so it is.
Thank you.
I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Let's do it again. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith, I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I am free. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. One more time. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Ricky Byers. Thanks, Ricky Byers.